Hello everyone, here and digitally. My name is Martin Skorbier Jensen, and I will introduce the project, the Danish Data Portal, that me and some colleagues have been working on for the last few years. In a nutshell, this is what we will try to explain today. This is maybe a bit confusing poster, but afterwards I hope this will all make sense to you. The key thing we're doing here is helping you find and access data from the public sector in Denmark. But I'll start with a riddle, and of course, here are my apologies for doing this in Danish, but I figure a lot of you were interested in language issues as well. This is a book of riddles that I read a bit with my children, and because they love riddles. And one of the riddles was really interesting to me. It's number 239 of these 888. It says, what can be, in Danish, can be both a sign, a book, and a person? And it's a very specific Danish word, and that's why you're struggling with the translation here, because the answer is the Danish word vejviser, which is something that shows you where to go. And I'll try to use that metaphor to explain what it is we're doing in practice here. We don't have a good English word for this. It's something like a roadmap. But if some of you have any experience accessing public sector in Denmark, you might know some of the platforms where you can find data. Some of you might have heard of opendata.dk, which is a place where especially municipalities and regions share their data that can be used for research or innovation. But that's far from the full picture of where you can access data. Other people in here might have worked with the Statistics Agency and their Statistikbank, as it's called in Danish. But we have other places where you can get statistics. You can get statistics on the labor market from Jobindsats, and you can get statistics on the education sector at Uddannelsesstatistik. Some of you might also have heard about the non-open data from the Statistics Agency at the data window, where you, through application, get access to more granular data, where this is data that cannot be accessed as open data. Some of you might also know our National Archives. They also share a lot of data. The National Archives increasingly share text data if you want to do language models and stuff like that. And we also we have some colleagues with us working on language resources at Sprogteknologi, where they find and exhibit resources that let you build technology in Danish. And then we have a big bunch of platforms that share what I would in broad sense call geographical and environmental data. We have a lot of open data about the basically Danish landscapes, environment, and so forth. Datafordeler, Miljøportal, you name it. And then we have some other platforms that you might have heard about. The weather data, meteorological data from Denmark and Greenland is also freely available. We have energy data, for instance, on energy prices. If some of you use those apps where you know when to start your dry cleaning machine and stuff like that, you will have probably have used data from the energy data platform. And the last one is data on the transport sector. So in a sense, you could say this is sort of a problem because there's a lot of platforms to try to figure out where to get what from. And in a sense, you could say this is sort of a luxury problem because there is so much data available that it's hard to figure out where to go. And this is the first part of the metaphor, because basically what we're doing here is being the sign that directs you where to go. And in more detail, we do that with this additional data platform called Data Vejviser, which is a catalog of where to find what data. That's our basic task. We are sort of set up to help you find the right platform for the data need that you have. So we do that in the ways that can help you. And the key way to do it is moving into the book metaphor is that you can browse this catalog. It's a website primarily where you can search for data sets. You can browse sort of more explore for data that might be relevant to you. You can use different sort of filtering options to find the data that's most relevant to you, what data format you're going for, what topics, what public sector agency you're looking for data from, or what sort of license conditions you want data in. You can do that, and then for each individual data set, you will find a page like this, saying, giving you more information about the particular data set, how often is it updated, when was last updated, what data formats, and so forth, and who can I get in touch with if I have further questions about the data. That is sort of the book where you can browse for public sector data. You can also, if you're not fully fluent in Danish, you can also find all the data sets on the European Data Portal. We hand over our entire catalog to the European Data Portal, and they do machine translations of titles and descriptions. If you prefer one of the other, I think we have 27 languages in the European Union where you can find that machine translated, along with data from a lot of other actors in Europe. And if you're more tech savvy and you want to do it in a different way, we also have open technical interfaces for the entire catalog. The catalog is made by basically contains standardized metadata, so you can access a technical interface and query for the data you're looking for. It's described here in Danish, but we can help you out if you're a non-Danish speaker. That's also what makes it possible for us to hand over the metadata to the European portal. So that's one of the things we do. This is sort of the book about what data is available. Oh, something happened here. The last part of the metaphor that I will present today is the person. And I brought a couple of colleagues with me today because the sign and the book can only get you so far. Sometimes you have some questions where you just basically need to talk to a person. That's why we're here today. That's why we have a contact address. And our offer to you is do reach out, and then we'll try as best we can to help you find the data that you're looking for. The data portal is not complete with all available data, but we're working on it, and it's a work in progress of getting ever more data that's already available, getting it sort of described properly. The second part of this slide is really important as well, because we're really interested in hearing about what troubles you have when you actually want to make use of the data. Because, and that can be a lot of troubles. It could be the data quality is insufficient, the technical interfaces are obsolete, the data formats are just not the ones you need. We're sort of interested in all that knowledge because that helps us give advice to politicians and decision makers on where to invest in public sector data availability, because that is a political priority in making the data that you need available. Of course, we have to respect the legal conditions and so forth. But we're very interested in hearing about your basically where you're frustrated with the public sector data offering. And one of the reasons we're really interested in that is because this is not a static image of what is available now. Apologies again for the Danish slide, but just to give you some examples of the investments being made in as we speak right now in making data available. One of the large investments is from the latest entrepreneurship strategy from the government, where they put quite a substantial amount of money aside every year to make public sector data available. And here, your wishes, your frustrations is what helps us direct these investments into where it can benefit the most. So the more you can tell us about what you need, the more we can advise on what would be a good way to spend this money. Another example is the utilities digitization program, data about water, electricity, heating consumption, also a large initiative in the digitization strategy, where this data will be made as available as possible to innovative users. Also here, the more we can sort of understand what use cases you're going for, the better we can make initiatives such like these. The last thing I want to highlight is from our colleagues in the Agency for Digital Government. I failed to say that. That's where I work. And this is on the language resources. And we have a particular initiative on making Danish language resources available to make it easier for you to make good IT solutions that actually speaks and understands Danish. They have a particular website for that. And the second point here, they do as we do, we find and display metadata about relevant language resources, but they are also increasingly working in developing the language resources that is needed. And I think it's safe to say that there will be further investments in this area in the near future. So this is some of the work we're doing right now. I hope this helps you understand this maybe a bit confusing diagram on when you can benefit from contacting us. It is basically when you don't know where to go to find the data that you're looking for. And we're really interested in all the dialogue we can have. That's why we're here today. I went for a rather short presentation because I'm much more interested in your questions, your feedback, your wishes on how we can help you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Martin. And as you said, this might even open up for more of an interactive session. Hope some of you brought questions. I'm personally curious about what are some of the things on your to-do list, like data sets you're eager to add because you have them available, you think they're suitable and useful?
We have several data areas where we are not that good at describing what data is available, and you can actually get access to. Health data is something that's very much sought after. Of course, health data, generally speaking, will not be open data. That will be something you need to apply for because it's sensitive data, a lot of it. The transportation sector is not that well described. So we have different data areas we're looking into. But one of our hypotheses is that what's really holding back data use is actually the insufficient metadata, the insufficient descriptions of what you can use data for, proper descriptions of data quality, of technical interfaces, and so forth, will actually benefit a lot in making already available data easier to use. So that's something we will be working on in the coming time, on making on getting the descriptions even better.
And what would qualify people to apply and get access to, for instance, health data? Would that be if they're affiliated with a university? Would that be a parameter?
That's something that, how should I put it? That's something that should be directed to the data platform that's making the data available. We in the agency actually don't make the data available ourselves, but we direct you to the proper authorities. So that would be especially our statistics agency and our health data agency that have specific procedures for that. But in general, yeah, it would be for research purposes.
Sounds good. Let us see. Do we have any questions among the audience here? Yeah. Well, we'll take the closest one first.
Okay. Do you have any data on the construction sector? How is the landscape of data when it comes to the construction sector?
What type of data you're thinking? Because we only have data from the public sector, so we don't have from any private construction companies. Can you be more specific on what you had in mind?
Monitoring CO2 emission during construction and operation of buildings, something like that.
I don't think we have during construction or anything. To my knowledge, nothing is available, but we'll have to look into that and get back to you. I think you can say that the utilities program will look into how the actual resource consumption in buildings will be made available. But that will be probably mostly be buildings already built and not during construction, I would assume. Yep. But we'll have to look into that. Who actually has that data during that phase of a construction project? I don't know, to be honest.
Yes.
I know that both Skanska and also Stark are looking into CO2 emissions and have a lot of data on that. If a private company wanted to make some of their data open source for one reason or the other, like for instance to help researchers, would that be something that they could host through you?
Small clarification, we don't host data, we only direct to the data platform. To my knowledge, almost no of the platforms in the public sector has an offering to private companies to make data available. Yeah. We also set ourselves to the task of making the data from the public sector easier to find, but it's one of the constant questions returning to us whether we should have a broader scope than the public sector data. But that's what we were set out set in the world to do as a first step. But we'll look into whether there is public sector data or from NGOs and so forth. There will be a lot of sort of gray zone whether it's public sector or completely private company.
Because it seems like there might be an opportunity space as more and more want to make things open source.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice and to the point presentation. I have a practical question first. If one finds an error, for example, I was playing around with it and one of the pages that I was directed to gave me an error. So should this be reported to you or?
Yes.
Okay.
as soon as possible, please. We hate errors. We try to monitor for them. Our software detects something. Other things will only be detected through. So I'll get back to you right afterwards, because we need to have that fixed. That's what we also hear, and that's the reason why the catalog is expanding rather slowly, is because what we heard from users early in the project is that reliability is more important than having a lot of dataset descriptions. So we're very much more into quality than quantity here. So I hate it when there's errors. We have to fix it.
I come from Estonia, and I work with the open data portal there, so I know I feel your pain.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it's very, very nice to see. I had a follow-up question from a different perspective. Do you have statistics on how much the data is being used by public sector? Like not like how much public sector data is, but how much the public sector itself reuses the data.
Yeah. It's a bit of a tricky question. The individual platforms will, of course, have monitoring on their sort of how many people are requesting data and so forth. The problem with open data is that it can be hard to figure out who's using what data for what. But in essence, what we would need to do to have a proper statistic is go through all of the data platforms and have their individual usage combined. That would be the right way to do it. The data platform I represent would not be the right measuring point, because that's like a phone book. You only use it the first time, and then you go directly to the data platform the next time. So it would be something that the individual platforms had. And of course, they do monitoring because they have to pay the bills and figure out how to have enough servers up and running. Yes?
Do you have any follow-ups, or you good? Did I see a hand you here? No. Yes? Okay, I'll go here first.
For students and entrepreneurs alike, have you made the data or your service available to, or contacted universities and entrepreneurship hubs and other types of things with your service?
In essence, that is what we're doing today. We try to get out as much as we can, make ourselves available both for presentations and also for the informal dialogue afterwards, helping out. We will also be present at the D3A conference this spring, October, in a month or so. And we try to get out to events where potential data users can easily reach us and ask their questions to sort of help potential users.
Thank you.
Website, the metadata catalog, the technical interfaces, everything is completely open. But that's only like on the description level. There will be conditions of use for the data itself, of course, if it's sensitive data.
And Christine, you saw some questions online?
Yes, we have one question from Thomas, and he's asking about whether also climate data and environmental data also is uploaded on your platform, or so you actually can make this kind of like a climate impact study as well.
Just to make sure I understand the question, to answer the first part of it, yes, there's a lot of environmental data, a lot of data relevant for climate mitigation efforts. It would depend on the individual use case what data you need, so it's hard to answer in general. But we have a lot of geographical and environmental data available in Denmark. That's one of the places where we're actually in a pretty good place compared to other countries. Particular CO2 emissions, I would need to know exactly what he's looking for. But I would assume there would be a lot to find for a lot of use cases.
How about traffic data, like amounts of cars on highways and so on? Because in some cases it could be a proxy. For
sure. We have. I'm unsure whether it's on the portal right now, but some municipalities have made traffic counts, cameras simply counting the number of cars at a particular place, and we have the road agency. We're in dialogue with them on getting their data easier to find, because they have their individual data platform for transportation data called Dataudveksleren. So it's not easy with the Dataudveksler, data vivers. We have it. They're almost called the same, most of the platforms.
Gotcha. Do you have more? Yeah.
I have one question myself. So how do you scout out after data, or do those who have the data approach you, or can I as a user ask you for some data to get access to?
Sure. I mean, what can you hear me now? Okay. How it would typically work is that what we're doing right now is going through every agency, figuring out what data they already make available and make that easier to find. That's one of our key tasks, because we encounter a lot of questions on data saying, can I get access to that data? Where our answer is, it's actually already available. You just need to go to this place. So that would be one answer to the question. The other one would be, if you're asking for data that is not already available, we will look into how we can figure out whether that data should be made available, and if so, how it could be done. And this is why I mentioned some of the political initiatives, because they give us the opportunity to actually launch data accessibility projects. And they would be very different, these projects. Making weather data available is very different from making transportation data available. So we would go into individual projects. But again, to stress the point, I think what's difficult for data accessibility projects is that often we have a rather blurry view of the demand. We don't know exactly what's being sought after. So the more specific you as researchers, as potential entrepreneurs can be about what type of data you need and what sort of use cases that would make available, the easier it is for us to act on it. So that's why we really want to get in dialogue with the people who are using data.
Do we have more questions? Yes?
Thanks for the lecture, and I'm wondering if all the data that you have built up for different areas are cleaned up or not, because making a database is one thing, and cleaning up the data and annotating them is another thing.
Sure. One of the things that I think we're lucky to have in Denmark is a lot of consolidated national datasets. Instead of having individual municipality datasets, for instance. If you go to other countries' data portals, you will find a vast number of datasets, but that could be, for example, from 98 different municipalities using slightly different data structures, so you have a big task of using it. So I think the one answer to the question is a lot of the data is already cleaned for some things, consolidated into national data sets, which will make it more widely usable. So I think the quality is actually pretty good, and that's what I hear from data users, that comparatively public sector data quality in Denmark is very good. The other question is, the other part of your question is, if you struggle with having to do a lot of data cleansing in order to use the data set, that's also interesting information for us. Because if you have that problem, we could assume that more people have that problem, and then we would look into a data improvement project on figuring out, should we make some of that data cleansing at the source? So those frustrations would also be very welcome to us, because we can maybe act on them. Some we can act on, some we can't.
Any more questions? Anyone looking for specific data sets that you might be curious whether they exist or not? And any more questions online, Christine?
If not, I'll just repeat that I'm here for the next 20 minutes or so, and my colleagues Paul and Athena can raise their hands, also here to help you. So just basically shoot with your questions, ideas. It's all valuable to us, because otherwise we just sit in the ivory tower trying to imagine what you might need, and nothing's good is going to come of that. So give us all your input. We can actually use it.
Yes? You have a question?
So if I got a data set that I really would like others to work on also, and also to increase the awareness of the data, can I reach out to you and ask you to make it available? Yeah.
As researcher, one of the most obvious ways to go would probably be the National Archives or some of the data platforms. But we will very much like to help researchers find the right place to share their data. But that would not, again, be us, but we would help you find the right data platform on which to make your data available. We also have dialogue with different research data actors in Denmark on what they can offer. So we would also be interested in helping you out.
And then on the top of that, if I guess you all the time continuously get new data set available. So do you have that you can get some kind of notification when there's new data available, or do I need to go through all of it?
Yeah. We have not yet made sort of a subscribe to it, and that's because it has some technical issues due to the implementation. We have a newsletter where you can also talk to our colleagues, where we sort of bi-monthly send out a short email saying, look into these and these data sets when something new is available. For now, we don't have a subscription service subscribing, but that's one of the things we're looking into.
And before the talk, you and your colleagues hung a nice poster in the back of the room. People who are joining online cannot see it, but perhaps I could share it on the slide.
It is basically this one, just formatted differently.
It has a QR code, which is also going to be helpful for people to find you.
That's true, yeah.
There just came one more question on
Sure.
On the chat, and it's from Aneta, and she's writing that she's working on a data portal to better connect journalists and Nordic public institutions, and she's curious to learn about the data needs and behavior of press once you're a collector or have that knowledge. So I guess it's within the journalistic or media world.
The short answer is, to me, a journalist would be one potential data user along with everyone else, and we'll do our best to help them find the data they're looking for. But I hope she reaches out so we can talk in more detail.
So the general takeaway message is: do reach out, do stick around, and talk with you and your colleagues.
Mm-hmm.